So while it looks like Crystal Harris is going to cash in on her engagement with Hugh Hefner and maybe have a reality show about the breakup and all the rest of it, and let's face it, Hugh enabled her anyway, putting her in the magazine and putting her on the cover this month, and it's all a big dramatic deal now, and we're all buying it hook, line, and sinker. How about this one? In return for a $5 donation to his reelection campaign, President Obama is offering you a chance to participate in a raffle for a casual dinner with him at an undisclosed location.
I have known.
There's an email from President Obama that says, if you make a donation today, you'll automatically be entered for a chance to be one of the 4 supporters who will sit down with me for dinner. Please donate $5 or more today. It's going to be a casual meal among friends. The dinner will be a chance, they say, for the president and supporters to share stories and ideas about national policy. And the winners are going to get free airfare, hotel accommodations. It's going to be a casual meal, not a formal affair. Rich Robinson, Michigan Campaign Finance Network, on the other end of our line right now. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
What's your knee-jerk reaction to the idea of the president raffling himself off for dinner?
He probably has a hard time having a conversation with people outside the bubble. And I suppose this does 2 things: try to provide an incentive for people to contribute to his campaign and actually let him talk to people who are experiencing real American life. It's not a new phenomenon. It's been going on for a while in at least federal campaigns and I think probably state campaigns.
Never heard of a president raffling himself like that before. It smacks of those bachelor auctions a little bit, doesn't it?
I don't know, if you say so.
Okay, I kind of say so, but we'll see what our listeners think about it. 888-900-9966. 888-900-9966. Do you think that the president should raffle off access to himself to talk national policy in order to raise money for his reelection campaign? 888-900-9966. And if you did win the raffle and you sat down with him, what would you tell him? We'll take your calls right now at 888-900-9966. Meanwhile, Rich, you made some news the other day saying that nearly $23 million spent in 2010 on political ads and television went unreported. How can that be?
Well, these ads that have been unreported are what I call candidate-focused issue ads. In federal campaigns, they're called electioneering communications. And the gist of it is that in contrast to what's known as express advocacy that will tell you to vote for, vote against, support, or defeat a candidate, these ads are more coy about how they define the suitability or attempt to define the suitability of a candidate for office. So taking one example of an unreported ad from the gubernatorial campaign, the Republican Governors Association had one that went through a few items in the Lansing City budget about cleaning Verge Bernero's fish tank and buying pencils and food and so forth, and then it contrasted that with, here's a candidate who has a plan, and it showed some B-roll of Rick Snyder. Well, it didn't explicitly tell you to vote for Rick Snyder, and so they didn't have to report that ad. And this is something that's been going on in Michigan campaigns since 2000. It's an accumulation of data now that has reached $70 million that I can account for. And the fact of the matter is the majority of the money spent in the gubernatorial general election, the Supreme Court campaigns, the Secretary of State campaign, and 45% of the money in the Attorney General campaign was entirely off the books. And the real significance of this is that we require contributors to candidates' campaigns, whether they're giving 50 cents or $3,400 to report their contribution. But these committees that are essentially the political parties and some interest groups may be fueled by contributors giving 5, 6, 7-figure checks, yet we require no reporting whatever of those contributions. And I would submit to you that it's these larger contributions that drive public policy as well as election outcomes.
Are the rules too gray?
No, I don't think they are too gray. there was a U.S. Supreme Court decision called Federal Election Commission against Wisconsin Right to Life that was actually put forth to try to undo the McCain-Feingold reforms prohibiting corporate expenditures in political campaigns for federal elections. And in that decision, the U.S. Supreme Court recognized that there is a functional equivalent of express advocacy. So the magic words dating back to Buckley against Vallejo in 1976 don't have to be present for an ad to actually be a campaign ad. And in fact, in that case, in Wisconsin Right to Life, the U.S. Supreme Court talked about what is issue advocacy. And what they said was it's an attempt to evoke grassroots lobbying of a public official who can affect the policy issue at question in the ad. So in our contemporary mode here, we've got this going on in spades with Americans for Prosperity and the Detroit International Bridge Company buying television ads that say, contact your elected officials, tell them not to let the colonizing socialist Canadians build a bridge to America. That's authentically dealing with a campaign or with a public policy issue. And this is a particularly egregious offense in our U.S. or our Michigan Supreme Court campaigns. Judges in Michigan law are not lobbyable officials. It's impossible to have authentic issue advocacy in these judicial races. Yet, in the 2010 campaign, the candidate campaign committees accounted for less than a quarter of the money, and 56% of the money was off the books.
That's Rich Robinson, the Michigan Campaign Finance Network, with some sobering stats.